We went 1 out of 2 again last week. I'm so tired of going 1 out of 2, 1 out of 2. We want to get 2 out of 2. Me and Vinny both went 1 out of 2. Last week, it just shows you how hard it can be to put 2 races together, never mind 4 or 5. This week on Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan, I have a very special guest from EquineEdge. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? This is Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan. I'm your host, Colin Sheehan, on Trust the Profits YouTube page. Please like and subscribe, and I'm so happy to be joined this week by Justin Sampson from EquineEdge. Justin, thanks so much for joining me on Doubling Down. What's happening?
Not much, brother. Happy Thursday. Almost Black Eyed Susan tomorrow. Like, big day, Preakness this weekend. I'm excited to be here and talk horses. So I appreciate you having me on.
You know, everybody that doesn't know about EquineEdge, they have a tremendous community on YouTube. They got me through COVID. In 2020, I started joining Scotty's show, and I'll tell you, I had so much fun in that chat, hanging out with you guys. And then through that, you know, it was the community first before the product. But watching the show and getting to talk to like-minded horse racing players is part of what started me down this road of even starting this show. And you guys have continued that. You were doing great stuff. Why don't you let the people know first where they can find the EquineEdge product, and then we're going to use that today to put together our daily double.
I'll turn my hat around for you because the name's on there. So
there you go.
EquineEdge.com. It's an awesome product. I will tell you, Colin, anybody listening, like, I've only been in this game 9 years, and you know, I lost a lot of money in the beginning, you know, as not, you know, trying to read the form. And I had no idea. I had nobody to teach me. I had no idea what I was doing. None, man. I talked about this earlier. We have coaching classes, and I'm like, I think I just picked horses that had the highest buyer figures in the form, and I hope they won. And, you know, I had no idea of like what pace was, what strength of race was, how breeding worked. And I think EquineEdge takes all the data right in a race, and it helps you be able to take that quickly and be able to try to make decision. It has multiple algorithms that look at the pace, the genetic rating, comes up with the win percent, it comes up with picks. But I tell people always, it is a subjective handicapping tool. You still have to handicap, and you can't just take the top win percent. You can't just take the top EquineEdge picks. Yeah, they might win a lot of the time, but it's a great tool. I think the last thing I'll leave you with is it really is an awesome community. I think it's something that I have grown to love, something you don't get in other places, right? People use the tool together. There's a Facebook page. We have YouTube shows. But the best thing of all, I actually just came from it before I joined you on the show here, is we have coaching classes, totally free. You don't even have to be a user of EquineEdge. So if somebody's wanting to check it out, you can join a coaching class, and Scotty teaches them. I teach them. Others teach them. We have one in Spanish, and we show how to use the tool. And it really is a community that comes together to really try to have fun and play the horses. So,
yeah, I can't stress enough how awesome it is. And we're going to dive into a little bit to show you what we're going to put together for this week's daily double. But what I love is every horse race is a puzzle, and when you can kind of take a little piece of all the different tools, right? Whether it's looking at past performances old school, whether it's using optics EQ and the boxes and the squares, or using charting horse value, who we've had on the show, or using EquineEdge, you still need to put that puzzle together and use some of the knowledge that you get either from this show or from exactly what you said, which is that community. As I mentioned in my open, I've gone 1 out of 2 about 3 or 4 weeks in a row. So it's very frustrating when you get a nice price and then you miss that next leg. Is the daily double something, Justin, that you play a lot? Where is it in your repertoire of bets that you're placing?
Yeah, so for me, I like to have conviction when I play a sequence. I do play a lot more horizontals, and if I cannot find singles or something I love, then I don't play it. But I will tell you, that took me 6-7 years to be able to do that. And I am a big pick 5 player, but I do like to play the daily double. I like to play it because if you can find a horse you like, whether it's a price or it's a favorite, but in that next leg, if you can find the same thing where you can make a decision and have conviction, there's value to be made there, you know, right? So And I also like it because it's a little bit quick. You don't have to rate 5 races and get your heart broken the 5th race added, or whatever. So I think it definitely has a place. I am a horizontal player. I probably play more pick 3s than daily doubles, between probably pick 5s and pick 3s, to be honest. But I do like them, especially on big days. I mean, to be honest, because the pools are good, and I do like to be able to make that decision. So if I can between 2 races, then I'll play it.
All right, well, we're going to put that to the test here as we go to Pimlico. This is obviously for Preakness weekend. That's where all our eyes are going to be on. So we're going to look at the Preakness as the second leg of the daily double. But first, we need to start with race 12, which is a field of 9. They're going 1 mile on the turf for 4-year-olds. I had a little bit of a hard time getting past a favorite here, and people that watch the show know that I don't take a lot of singles. Justin, you don't know, I went 33 episodes in the green on this show before I finally at my winnings, and now I'm in the red, but that's okay. We'll get it back. But I found a hard time getting past Nagarok here. Before we dive into EquineEdge, how I use EquineEdge is I still sort of tend to go through the past performances the old way that I've learned, right? And figure out okay, I kind of like this horse. And then I go to EquineEdge and see what it says. And sometimes it's like, oh man, am I way off? Or, I find myself on the long shot a lot sometimes, which is interesting because they do pretty well. But in this particular instance, I couldn't get past the 9 Nagarok. Do you dive right into EquineEdge, or do you even look at past performances anymore?
Only EquineEdge. At some point in the past, I used to use another kind of tool to supplement, but I only use EquineEdge. What I found, Colin, was it confused me more than anything. I do supplement EquineEdge sometimes with work reports. That's the only thing I supplement. But yeah, I'm an exclusive user because it's just simplified my handicapping. So.
Okay, so when I looked at this race and saw Nagarok as a single that I was going to have a hard time getting past, what you can do here on EquineEdge is go by win percentage. That's kind of the first place that I usually get a sense of what I'm going to look at. And I'll be honest, Justin, I'm not getting paid by you, so I can be hypocritical. I hate when I have the top win percentage in the 40 percentile. I don't know what it is about the 40 percentile. I would much rather see Nagarok at 39% than 44%, because I feel so many times when I hit 40 to 49, it to me, I have hard time getting that horse home. I don't know if you feel that same way. Maybe it's just a bias that I've acquired. But what you can see here is a 44% win percentage for Nagarok, and also the EquineEdge top pick. So already, after I looked at my past performances, I kind of know that I'm backed up by EquineEdge in my sense that Nagarok's going to be a tough horse to beat here.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think, the top 2 EquineEdge picks win about 55% of the time. So you can see in that case, it's really keen, the 9 and the 1 horse here in the top 2 picks, and they are also taking up about 65% of the win percent. I don't disagree with you on Nagarok, though. I think that horse is going to be tough, but in my daily double, I am going to add a second horse here because I'm going to try. I do worry that this could be a fairly chalky daily double, to be honest. And so if I'm going to play it, you could play it cold, in my opinion, a single to a single, but I am going to, and I'm not going to use the 1, but I will turn it back to you for a minute, but I am going to add a second horse here as a little bit of a price.
Yeah, and I'm going to add my price in the second leg. So similar approach to you, and I agree. I think this could certainly come up chalky, and if you're going to go Nagarok with a horse like Mage, that's something where you just go ice cold and put $10 on them, as opposed to try and spread out your money by going like 2x2 or 2x3. And I've talked about that on this show. What's great about daily doubles is you can look in the probable pool on your mobile betting and see what you're going to get paid for. So you get a sense of what it's going to be if you're going to go Nagarok and Mage. But before you give me who you liked, I wanted to point out one thing that I did when I went through my old school, looking at the old PPs, is that you have a couple horses on here that haven't even tried the turf. And that is the number 4, Top Recruit, and 5, Circling the Drain. And so that is always a question mark. You're kind of using percentages of how the pedigree has done. EquineEdge has a great tool called the GSR, where you can very quickly on this column on the right, sort it by that, and get a sense of, are they going to perform on the turf for me? So the top recruit 4 and 5 circling the drain. 5 circling drain has a 66. Top recruit is at the bottom with a 56. Does that make me, should that make me kind of fade those two and not worry that they're going to take to the turf suddenly and knock me out?
You know, what I think when I see that, I want to see something else besides the genetic rating telling me something. So in this situation, the 5 is 1% and the 4 is 2%. So I immediately just eliminate those horses. You know, if this is we were talking about this on the coaching class. If you see a horse switching surfaces and distances, right, and that GSR is a positive thing, I want to see the win percent go with it. You know, and I think in a situation like that, you know, it's switching surfaces, but the win percent is so low, I just don't give it a shot.
Yeah, and the GSR is actually not much better than what it had been running on the dirt. So it's not like you're going to expect some big jump because all of a sudden, suddenly he's running on the turf.
Well, and the 4 is a great example. So that horse, right, top recruit, it's dropping to a 56 GSR, right? And it had been racing on the dirt from 70 to 75. So that immediately I just didn't eliminate for me because the horse doesn't want to go on the turf. I'm not sure what they're trying to do here. So
trying to win on Preakness Day is what they're trying to do. So there you go.
They need EquineEdge.
Well, what I want to point out to people is how quickly we kind of did that. We just, and I took some time going through the PPs before, but 1%, 2% horses and their GSR is low, switching from the surface, hey, we can toss. So I already know that you're not using those two. The one was the other one that you had mentioned you're not using, and it's a similar angle where I wanted to see how this horse, because this horse's best performances had been on a synthetic surface. And EquineEdge as well will show you what they do on the synthetic surface as well. Who is the horse that you're going to use if you're not going to use the one?
Yeah, I'm going to use 3, Western Yarn. This horse actually shows up as the EquineEdge long shot. So I would use the 3 and the 9 here. I thought Wonderful Justice, the 8, was a little bit interesting, to be honest, with Brad Cox and Luis Saez. But for me, I went to the EquineEdge long shot. This horse is 2 for 3 at the distance. It has a good GSR of 74. I like to see in stakes, this is a stakes race, not a graded stakes, but I like to see horses that are in the 70s on the GSR. You know, talking with Scotty, the creator of EquineEdge, they win. If you are not in the 70s, you don't win a lot of stakes races. You can win like stake breds, or you can win occasionally in the 60s, but I like to see horses that are in the 70s. And Western Yarn here is coming off a short little layoff, had been racing at Tampa. I think this horse is very sneaky. And so it looks to be working well. It's coming out of easier races, I would say, but I think this horse has a chance to get the lead. And I know the one's going to show a little bit of pace, but I think this horse could really surprise, to be honest. And if it doesn't, I do think this race sets up for the 9. So I'm taking the 3 on the front end. And then from a closer perspective, I think the 9 could have a fairly easy pace setup, which is why I see a lot of people could single this 9 horse with a big drop in class.
Yeah, but the drop in class I don't see as much on the SOR, and that stands for strength of race. Now, of course, Nagarok is a grade 3 winner, was 3rd in a grade 1 race, which no one else in this field can really match those credentials when you're just going from grade 3, grade 1, strictly using those terminologies of what the class is. But strength of race kind of gives you a good sense of the fields that the horse has been running against, correct? And so it's interesting to see, based on the thought process that I have looking at old school pen and paper, is like, well, this should be a much, is bigger class drop than what I'm seeing when I look at the SOR, which actually has Fade the Noise as the highest SOR in this field.
The only thing I would say there, though, Colin, if you dig into Nagarok on the 9 horsing show, I mean, that the Transylvania grade 3 came back as a 74, right? And today we're showing up on this race. This is only going to be a 66. That's a big drop. I mean, an 8-point drop, right, is pretty substantial. Even if you go back to, the grade 1, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, that was a 74. So this horse can be very tough to beat. And that's where, like in most cases, I thought the 8 was a little bit interesting, but I'm like, there's no way that, I mean, the 9 should be able to dominate the 8, but the 3, from a pace perspective, this horse could be really dangerous, to be honest, on the front end. And I think it's fit. Western Yarn, I think this is just a really sneaky play here. So that's why I'm doubling up here. I'm grabbing the price from, hey, this horse can be on the front end. The 9's going to run first or second, though. I can get the single.
So that sounds like where you're going to play your horizontal. He's leading us there. He's giving you a little tip, not just a double. We're giving you some exactas there as well. So read between the lines. So let's move on to the big race. Justin's going to go 9-3. I'm just going to single Nagarok in that leg. I think he's a standout to me, both from doing my past performance work before looking at EquineEdge and then seeing what we saw both from a top pick and top win percentage. I'm going to be okay going there because there's a horse I like in the Preakness that is a little bit of my price where I'm going to try and find. So we go to race 13. This is the Preakness Stakes, the leg 2 of the Triple Crown, and we only have one horse returning from the Kentucky Derby. And that horse, if you looked at EquineEdge on Kentucky Derby Day, was your top winning percentage at 15-1. So nice score for you guys on having at least the top winning percentage on Mage. Mage is not your top winning percentage. I will add that we are taping this show. There's a lot of swirling going around on First Mission. We don't know right now at this moment as we tape this if First Mission is in or out. But let's just play at least first thinking that he's in. Mage is not your top win percentage. He is your top choice. And that's where you're talking about where you still kind of have to handicap because this system is giving you different algorithms to decide win percentage and those picks on top. They don't always match up and you kind of need to do your own work. If this thing gave us winners, then there wouldn't be a need for my show or your show or anything. We'd have it made and we'd all be dancing and having a good time. So Preakness Stakes, where you think you're going to land on here, Justin?
So I didn't even know this. I was talking to you briefly before the show. There's all this talk about First Mission scratching. So I will find that as a bummer because I would have just went straight into First Mission here to upset Mage is where I was headed. It's the second EquineEdge pick. As I mentioned, those 2 top picks hit about 55% of the time. So Mage and First Mission, on the win percent, they're 26 and 20, and you have National Treasure up there as the top win percent. It's also, you can see the square, the pace of the race, right? And so, but I was going to First Mission. I think that First Mission is just a great horse. I mean, ran in the Lexington there at Keeneland. Saez rides back. That was a brutal kind of tough trip for that horse if you watch that race, and to win that race was fairly impressive. My concern on Mage, if First Mission scratches, I'm going to default to Mage. I don't traditionally play a 2x2 daily double, but I think if First Mission gets in, you could. I think this horse is the real deal. I really do. Forte, I think, was a special horse, to be honest, and Mage ended up winning the Derby pretty impressively, in my opinion. And my concern is the turnaround, Colin. It really is. And we don't see it a lot. And we have in recent years seen the Triple Crown, right, a couple of times. And to be honest, it's what got me into horse racing years ago. I worry, though. I really do. It's quick. The horse is lightly raced, though. It is. EquineEdge has this horse at even money on the morning line, even less than the odds maker at 8-5. But I'm going to First Mission. I think this horse has a great way to improve. Brad Cox has this horse working amazingly. It's going to be a shame if First Mission scratches. The genetic strength rating says this horse should get the distance just fine. Mage is a 99, which is the highest you can. I don't think I've ever seen 100. I don't know if it goes to 100. I can't remember. But is a 99. It's also a good magic. So I think the breeding here is a little bit. There's not a ton of data behind it on the sire and dam, but First Mission second there. So I'm landing on First Mission here. If First Mission scratches, I would fall to Mage.
Yeah, I'm all the curl and angle here. I love Mage. I think that what we saw, we've talked about on multiple shows on this channel, I'm sure you guys have talked about it a lot as well, is just the and I hate the word mediocrity because I don't say it meaning the horses are mediocre. I mean more of the fact that the horses are all kind of at the same plane and saying they're all beating each other, and you don't really have that standout. We did have it with Forte, right? And you talked to prior to the show when we were in the green room. It's like, well, there was only, and people are going to laugh when I say this because I'm like in love with logins, and it's like a little joke on this channel that Colin's always talking about logins, but there's only two horses that competed with Forte, and that was Logins and it was Mage. And you know, Mage, I think thought he had a win in Florida Derby. Obviously, Forte had to do something special to get there. This is the kind of race where normally I would kind of play that I'm going to try and get cute and beat Mage. I'm not, and I wish I was on him as heavily in the Derby. I kind of took that Japan angle and was big on Dermisotogake and Angel of Empire, and that made me miss exactly what you just said, which was, oh, he didn't race at 2, and that was kind of in my head of like, well, that's that angle that's in a lot of people's brains, and I'm trying to remind people every race is independent of what's happened in the past. So break yourselves of those past trends and apply it to what's happening right now. And I think from an eye test, what we saw from Mage was really impressive. I think he's come back, you know, at least going by what the connections have said, he looks just as good as he did going into the Derby. But I love that curl and angle, and I'm a sucker for Perform. Perform is a horse that I have just like watching that last race. And I don't know if you've had a chance to go back and watch the race that Perform had at Laurel. And I know it was at Laurel. This horse, look at the past performances of the names that Perform has lost to. Disarm, Race Cane. I know Race Cane's not a huge contender in the Derby, but, you know, respectable. Lost to Mage, lost to Lavar, who I thought was a decent horse. Have you watched Perform's last race? I just have to ask you.
No, okay. I haven't. Right. I'll have to watch it.
You have homework to do because it is absolutely, by far to me, the number one performance from an excitement race replay of this year so far. This horse was looked totally beat in the stretch. Tries to go out, and the horse in front of him, he was trying to get out to move clear traffic. The horses in front of him follows him. He then breaks back in, and the horse, not knowing that was in front of him, went in front of him as well. So he got blocked twice, got to the rail, passed the first flight there, and still looked like he was beat, and he just made an unbelievable move to get to the finish line just in time. I'm telling you, Justin, you have to go watch this race. That was including a really tough break at the beginning. And I'm telling you, as a 3-year-old, this horse has performed much better than he did as a 2-year-old. So sure, he was running at maiden 90,000, 100,000s at Saratoga and Keeneland. It wasn't getting there. Draw a blue line from his 2-year-old to his 3-year-old seasons. The first race as a 3-year-old, he lost to Mage. He ran with Mage on the backstretch and was right alongside him up until the first turn, and then Mage kind of put that whole field away. Then he drops down to the maiden 37,000. That's why I think he might be overlooked a little bit, because that race obviously on paper is like, okay, well, look who he had to go beat in order to get his win. Well, I'm telling you, go back and watch that race at Laurel, and if this horse, it's just kind of a pure like, wow, that was so exciting. How can I not include this horse at 15 to 1, 20 to 1 on my ticket? And you know, he doesn't check the boxes here for percentage. I was hoping he'd come up as a long shot, but it was Blazing Sevens. And Blazing Sevens is the other curling horse that I'm going to use. So the 3 good magics are going to be on my ticket, and I would even do that as an exacta. That's going to be my bet for the Tour de Force, which we run. But Blazing Sevens, I'm kind of a sucker for that angle of Chad Brown skipping the Derby to point a horse at Pimlico for the Preakness, which we saw last year with early voting, who obviously had a pace advantage last year, and I think that led to it a little bit. But some curiosity that I have there. In Blazing Sevens, I know I wasn't high on him this Derby season. It's a little bit of just, like I said, the Chad Brown angle. And to see him as your long shot, to me, is not a total toss for me. So that's where I'm kind of going to go, is 3, 6, 7 in this race. Did you have any intrigue in any of those ones?
I have not watched the Perform race. I think my concern with Perform is just that race was a 70 SOR. And I think this horse, although this field is not great, I would say that I don't think this is an amazing field, but it's a big step up. I mean, for this race is showing up as a 78 from a strength of race. So not necessarily in Perform. I do think Blazing Sevens is so if we think about this race, so National Treasure is going to be on the lead for Baffert. Like, I think that's going to be a given. Coffee with Chris, I think this horse is going to fold it up, and to be honest, it could make National Treasure a little bit dangerous on the front end. You know, Baffert's going to have this horse ready to go. Coffee with Chris has absolutely no shot in this race, and there's not a lot more pace than that. If Coffee with Chris is not able to put some amount of pressure on National Treasure could be really dangerous on the front end. So if you believe that, I think National Treasure can be a use in this race as the top EquineEdge win percent. Blazing Sevens is the only other horse I would talk about. I think the 2, 4, 5, even the 6 for me, I don't see it here. Blazing Sevens is interesting from the standpoint that this horse does not break well. My concern is that, in addition, this horse is not won around 2 churns. So I think First Mission is the real deal. I think Mage is an amazing horse. I mean, he just won the Derby, so how can he not be? I mean, although we saw what happened last year. So, but I think with Mage, like, is the real deal. Blazing Sevens has Irad, and he rides back for Chad Brown, and he's rode this horse for the 2nd time now. He broke awful last time again. So that's my concern. If this horse actually breaks as the EquineEdge long shot, I think is dangerous. But for whatever reason, this horse does not break out of the gate. And I just don't, it hasn't won around 2 churns. Like, both its wins were at 8 furlong, a 1 churn at Aqueduct, right? And then it won its Saratoga Maiden Special. So that's my concern. But I believe it's a legit long shot because, you know, the horse is in its 7th start. So maybe Irad gets this horse out of the gate. It's not a big field, you know, and so from that standpoint, I do think Irad has a bit of a dangerous long shot. So,
yeah, and it's also important to point out the SOR on Blazing Sevens races have all been strong. I mean, in 82, 78, 84, 78, 76. So while he has been breaking bad, he's also been running against, I'll call it the best of the best here with the 3-year-olds. So it's not like he was Chase the Chaos running out at no disrespect to Golden Gate, but running, enters this field because he got the automatic win in that one. All right, so I'm going to go Mage, Perform, and Blazing Sevens. You're going to go First Mission if he's not scratched, and if he is,
then I will just default to Mage.
Okay.
I think they're the best 2 horses. I really do. I don't think this amazing field. I think, again, I do think National Treasure may be very dangerous on the front end, though. I really do think that could be our most dangerous thing from a pace perspective. If Coffee with Chris just like folds it up, at the halfway through the race, which I think is possible.
Yeah. And so one thing I want to point out before we leave everybody is that the EquineEdge has a ticket generator. So we're going to go back to race 12. We're going to use the daily double ticket generator. We're going to put in $1. Just to see who it would go single with for this double. Hold on.
You have to check.
Hold on.
I was gonna say that might be really crazy, man, because if it was fixing Perform, let's see, it takes National Treasure in the Preakness. It's taking the top 2 win percent horses, which it will do in a lot of instances. So I'm not too surprised. Put in. Yes, it probably is going to add Mage, I would guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's do $4 just to see. And this only gives me more confidence in Nagarok, right? Because you're adding more money into what should be the double. And let me make sure I don't have it. Yeah, I don't have it checked off. So it is just saying, which is what I'm happy to see. That Nagarok is basically a really strong choice until you get up to $6, and then it says, well, maybe you should use Fantastic again in Nagarok. But great tool, and I thank you so much for doing this, Justin. I've enjoyed my talks with you in the YouTube chat. Like he said, he has awesome coaching classes to get if you want to get more involved with EquineEdge. Definitely join their YouTube shows. Are you still doing your Friday show with Oldie?
Yeah, we have tomorrow 2 p.m. Eastern, Black Eyed Susan. We'll look at a little bit of Golden Gate, probably late West Coast racing, but predominantly we have live racing from Pimlico. We'll have live racing on the show for Black Eyed Susan, so it'll be a fun day.
There you go. Tune over and check him out. He's Justin Sampson with EquineEdge. It's a great tool. My name is Colin Sheehan. This is Doubling Down. I hope you all have a great Preakness weekend.